As there's a drive in a deep left field by Castellanos, it will be
Oh
a
man,
home
it's
run.
8 o'clock.
And so that'll make it a.
I don't need the spotlight. I shine just fine.
Hi, I'm Karma, and yes, I am a bitch.
BravBros. Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome back to a special episode of BravBros, your favorite podcast from the bros for everybody, for whoever wants to listen. I am your co-host, Steele Russell, joined as always by Shooter Magooter and a very special guest, an original BravBro, if you will. We have Craig Conover from Southern Charm and like 15 other shows. What's up, Craig?
What's up, guys? Congrats on everything. I remember it's funny because I'm in Albany and at Paige's parents, and Sierra's here too. And I was like, hey, I'm gonna go do the BravBros podcast, and like they knew instantly. Like what I'm trying to say is it's funny how much we know more about people than they realize.
Oh, yeah.
Like I saw you guys right when you came out, and I thought it was awesome what you guys were doing. But like I don't think I ever told you. I was never like, "Hey, good job, guys." I was just like,
we
"Let's
heard
see
a
what."
clip of you. You were on somebody's podcast like a year and a half ago. We just started out, and you mentioned like, yeah, there's these two guys, like two straight dudes, just doing Bravo recaps, and it's awesome. And I like filmed myself like listening to it. I was like, oh shit, Craig. So I reached
Oh,
out to
that's
you
right.
like that day. I was like, hey man, thanks for the shout out. And you liked it a year and a half later. It said like message from Craig. I was like, oh, sick. I was like, it's a year and a half late, but we'll take it. Like,
Yeah. So the girls say hello. But yeah, congrats on everything, and I'm glad we've got this little holiday break to catch up. So it's an honor to be here.
Yeah, I mean,
Well,
it's a great time to do it too, because right in the middle of probably the best season of Southern Charm that we've ever watched. It's fucking wild. I mean, what? Just try to like break it down for us a little bit. What's it like being in that moment? You realize that there's so much going on between obviously Austen and Taylor, and then the Olivia factor, and everything else that just keeps popping up. It seems like every week there's a new storyline that you guys have to fucking deal with. Like that's one, it's got to be exhausting, but it's got to be exciting in the moment, right?
Yeah, I mean, this year was really great, and I'm glad it's resonating with everyone because it felt not like old school Southern Charm, but we let Charleston be its own character again, like this incestuous city that we live in, and everything that everyone's seeing. Like, look, we only film a couple months a year, and we just got the sweet spot of the year. It just all of this stuff ended up happening when we happened to have cameras there, and so I have found myself laughing most at some of our reactions, and we didn't know that Olivia and Austin had hung out, and I had found out earlier that day, when Austin and I were filming, and then when Shep found out at the dinner table, like I just watched his face, and he's like, "Wait, what?" And you could see that he's processing it in real time, like, "There's no way that you guys did that," and like, it's a great season. I'm glad to be back. In this like sweet spot. And, for whatever reasons there were we've been on almost a decade. Like, some seasons are just going to be a little slower, but I think this one is just so raw and real, for better or for worse, that I think the viewers are really connecting with it.
yeah, I mean, we've definitely resonated with a lot of the things happening, and you can just tell from social media. That's kind of where you get the heartbeat of what's going on, if it's hitting or if it's not landing. And it seems like everybody is appreciating the season as much as we are. Now, do you think that a part of that, because I'm newer to Southern Charm, it took me a little bit while to get into it. Shooter's been Southern Charm like since day one, but do you think that a big part of this season is because you guys are like, a lot of you have grown up, a lot of you have matured in a lot of ways? Is this a season where you can kind of look at it? Even Shep seems to have a little bit more self-awareness this season than I've seen in the past. Do you attribute that to the success this year, that people are kind of, Austin talked about early in the season that he had a confession where he said, I might be the issue, maybe I need to look inward, stuff like that. It seems like there's more self-reflection going on, I guess. Like, do you think that plays into it at all?
I think it plays into the longevity of Southern Charm as a whole. We really they really just give kind of everyone a chance to live out their lives for better or for worse and bring y'all along for this ride of, I mean, it's a roller coaster and there's like arcs in both directions. There's good arcs, there's bad arcs. I speak a lot around the country now, and a big thing I talk about is like most success stories, or when you see people that have made it, they're not going to highlight the bad years. Like, they might say, oh, like it wasn't always easy, but they don't have like reality show cameras documenting some of their like real bad, like Adderall benders and like,
Yeah.
kind of been really messing up and getting fired. And so I hated it at the time, but I really appreciate that some of my bad years were filmed. I mean, it would be very hard for me to watch, but it gives some context and authenticity to people when I'm like, look, if now you get to see me, like if I can make it to where I am now and make it out of some of those dark times, I mean, a lot of people can relate to addiction or drinking too much or whatever it may be. And then to be able to share the light at the end of the tunnel, I think that's what gives the show hope, which is cool. And I think like Austen is in this kind of, I was about to use some word I didn't know, like paradigm or something, but he's in the middle of, I associate words
we make
wrong
up words all the
time.
time.
Yeah, Paige is like, that's not a real word, Craig. And
That's
she's
what
like,
we do it too. We just sound so confident with it that we don't
yeah,
we'll say, and then we'll get comments like, that's not how you use that word. We're like,
yeah,
no, I'm pretty sure it is though.
yeah. If you know what I was trying to say, but he's really in this tug of war where is he going to take these like second, third, fourth chances, kind of follow in the footsteps of, I would think, I don't know, maybe it's just me, maybe it's a conceited thought to think this, but I think has his intentions are so good. He's just got to figure out how to make the right choices. And all of these things are happening in real time. And I think this year we did a great job of not losing the message and what happened during filming between principal photography and it airing. Like, I think you're getting a very true look at what happened.
Yeah, I feel like that's like such a super important aspect of reality TV. And I love Southern Charm. And like, I used to watch Summer House all the time too, because it resonated with me as, like late 20s, early 30s. I like to go out, like, I want to have a party every weekend. I want to go out with my boys and go to the bar. And that's why it feels so different now, because we get to watch year after year, you guys change. And I want to like attribute a lot of that to you, because watching you, even over the last 3 years, you've changed and matured so fucking much. It's crazy to watch you from like years ago yelling at a dinner table completely blackout, and now you're the voice of reason. You're the one that people turn to for logic. I know. Yeah, look, I'm not going to be an idiot here. I'm going to go ahead and say, good job, Paige. I think she had a lot
Yeah.
to do with that. But that's what I feel like we want more from Austen too. And obviously, yeah, we understand the aspect of what's going to make great TV will be Shep kind of losing his mind and maybe not growing up. And maybe Austen doesn't grow up because he's doing all these little things behind the scenes that make for such great TV. But we watch so much of your content that we want to root for you. Like, we want you
Right.
guys to do better. And I feel like this year is kind of that thing. Like, you've got a crazy balance going on right now when we watch shows the way that Steele and I do, where, yeah, Austin's doing some dumbass shit and he's screwing up relationships here and there. But we can still see this is a slightly different Austen. For him to sit down in the confessional and say, I don't know what the fuck I'm doing, but I'm going to therapy and trying to figure it out. And I understand that I might be the problem. So I'm trying to fix these things. It is a crazy component, but how does it feel for you? Obviously, you rewatch these shows, you rewatch all the episodes. Like you said, you were watching the screener on the plane. How does it feel for you to know, like, yeah, you had some of your lowest moments on TV, and now to see where you are? Is it kind of crazy to be like, yeah, I'm the voice of reason in this group? I kind of broke away from the Peter Pan, or what did we say was the plural of Peter Pan? Steele, Peter Pan.
Peter Pan, which
Yeah,
isn't true. It's just not correct, but that's
That's funny. Well, I actually attribute, yes, Paige, and that's a whole conversation of like, so, some people are like, I won't change for anyone. And it's like, no, but you can get better. Like, you can
Mhm.
improve on yourself. You can become a better person. And you have to do it for the right reasons. Like, I've had times in my life where I had to stop drinking or slow down my drinking for the wrong reasons. Like, I've dated we've all dated people in the past, but one was just, I knew, like, if we broke, like when we broke up, I went back to my old habits. Like, I honestly believe that with Paige now and like the way I live my life, um, and like the program that I do, like my personal like program, if we broke up, I would still continue this or hopefully continue this.
Right.
And it's sustainable growth. And like, I don't think that's a bad thing at all. And I don't think anyone, well, some people out there would be like, oh, you're not like, like basically only the party guys that still miss, having someone to hear the birds, in the morning with.
Yeah.
But other than that, like it's fun to get better. But Sierra told me, after Winter House 2, she was like, Craig, your message is, we actually talked about it this morning at breakfast. I used to say that Sierra said, Craig, your message is usually right. And she would say, but it gets lost in your delivery. This morning at breakfast, she was like, Craig, you're always right, which was wild for her to say
Wow.
that. But
Okay.
yeah, I was
High
like,
praise.
wow, CC. But she was like, but your dumbass would be, but they would lose it. You would lose it because you would give, I was doing too much. And, I've been trying to get healthy and work on myself for a while now. And this is the first show that was filmed after I made some changes in my life.
Mhm.
And it's really enjoyable. For a lot of years I couldn't watch, and it's really fun to be able to watch again.
I mean, it's cool to see you like you're actually still having so much fun and you have the perspective of, yeah, my friends are idiots. I know what they're going to do. I know they're going to do dumb shit, but you're still sitting there like laughing in the background, understanding, all right, look, I can give you some advice. I understand who you are as a person, but you're an idiot. And that's like really fun to do. And I want you to know that at least it conveys that way through TV too, because you're
That's
sitting
good.
there like, yeah, you know what? I feel better. I like watching myself because I know that I'm doing things the right way. Even us, the viewers, we're watching and we're like, Craig has changed and Craig's doing a great job right now because he's still having a great time. You're not like completely avoiding everything and not going out with your boys anymore because you don't want to get stuck in those situations. You found a way to still have fun and also do the right thing, which is cool to see.
Well, you got to find that balance. And I just like, I don't know, I've been trying to think a lot, especially after BravoCon. I'm like, I think I just have a lot to lose, and that's the fun thing now. Is like I've built something that, like, you know we've got a lot of employees now. We've got a big company. Like, we have partners. Like, I have a lot to lose, and there's a lot of pressure that comes with that. But also, it's exciting, and you just continue to put one foot in front of the other. And I think that's like with Austin, he had been doing therapy. He was doing so well, and then he does this like crazy ass thing that I still like can't believe happened. But like he is at least is doing 5 steps forward, 4 steps back, and
So
like he
still
is moving
progressing
forward. Yeah, he's
slowly.
progressing. He just does, he gets himself, and that's why I love that you guys got to see my reaction
Mhm.
with everything this year, because it's still the absurdity of this year still makes me laugh. But
Oh yeah, I
um
mean it's outrageous to watch just because when you look at it like logically, then you break it down from that standpoint and you see Austin doing some of this shit, you're like, bro, like why on earth would you make that decision, especially when you are trying to work on yourself? But at the same time, I think it's an interesting dynamic to watch with you two because you are so close and have been so close and will always be so close. And it's that middle ground that you treaded very well this season where he's done a lot of things that you do not stand by, where it's like, this is bro code for one. Two, it's just a moral high ground. This is my moral compass and what I believe in. And I'm watching you make these mistakes, and I will not sit here and support you on that. I'm still your friend, and I'm going to help you try to get through this. But at the same time, when you're with people, you're at that dinner at Whitney's house, and you'll call them out and be like, yeah, well, why did you do that? Like, when you guys were hanging out, you're telling me all you did was kiss? Like, come on, it doesn't make a whole lot of sense if you guys are having sleepovers. So I appreciate the fact that you're still a good friend to him, but at the same time, you're not afraid to be like, yeah, but you need to clean up your shit. And I think that's the symbol of like a real friend.
Well, and I think it shows his growth because I'm so appreciative that he allowed me to do that, because I was nervous. That balance was hard to be like, I do not agree with your actions, but I still like you as a person.
Right.
Um, and that it was like he easily could have been like, man, fuck you. Like, you don't have my back. But instead, like, he took it on the chin, I didn't go, like, I didn't try to fucking harp on it. Like, like I wasn't, like, I made it clear that I didn't agree with what he did. And I don't know. I'm glad that we were able to make it through because we're in a great place. Like, we're on tour right now together. He had a great, like, BravoCon, and like it's fun to see your buddy do well. And like it I wasn't always good at being called out on my shit. I'd be like, find a million excuses and stuff. But I think he's doing about as best as he could, just taking his lashings this year, which kind of I think, was prolonged because one, I think there was a lot of suspicion, there still is in the season, around what the full story was. So that's always going to keep something alive, and that's what I tried to tell him. I'm like, he's like, why are we still talking about this? And I was like, well, with that suspicion of any story, then it's going to keep going on. And I think Shep's inability to really, like, face his emotions, which we got to see, like, last episode, kind of kept it alive too, because then he would have these, outbursts, which seemed random to a lot of people, but were because he, like,
Just
really just
built
didn't know
up
how to.
over time.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I guess with like the Shep part of it all, and I mean, you were the one to say like this incestuous Charleston that we've seen with this whole thing. Like, why is it so important for Shep to maintain this level? Like, I think it's ironic that he claims to want to be a gentleman and be nice, and I'm nice to everybody. I get along with everybody, and then he does some pretty shady shit on the side. But why is it so important for Shep to maintain this image of like, oh, I get along with everybody? Is he just like that prone to or wants to avoid drama that he's just going to do whatever he can to just say he's cool with everybody and it just boil? Is this like a repeat thing with him, or has he ever gotten? Will we see this season, I guess, a moment where Shep is able to actually dive into what's bugging him, why it's bugging him, and why he should be pissed at Austen? I mean, you said it best. Like, if that was you and Austen had hooked up with Paige, like, you would say flat out, I don't know how to be friends with you, man. Like, if Shooter did the same thing, I would say to his face, like, bro, I don't know if I can ever fucking trust you again. So will we get that moment with him, or is it just going to be more of the same?
Yeah, I mean, we'll just have to. That's our watch and see answer.
Company
But
man.
why? Yeah, yeah. We've, I hope so, because it's funny because Shep and I have been friends for a decade now, and we're so different, and I think that's why we get to good places, because we just accept each other as, like, we're like brothers that can go home for the holidays, and 3 days is great. But the fourth day is too much. And, like, we don't need to be spending 4 days together. But we love to see each other for three. Because we're so different. And we've both rubbed on it off on each other, I hope, in good ways. But I truly believe that he thinks drama, like, he can't process like a practical reason for drama or people not getting along. And I think that's what his brain just tries to be like, life's too short or life's too good to have any unrest. Maybe it's, I think being vulnerable scares him more than probably the most, and really, like, I'm just like, I'll sit around and talk about emotions, a lot easier than, I guess, Shep. So I think it's a scary territory for him, and it's kind of been neat to explore that this year. So, we've
Yeah.
got our reunion coming up, and we don't know what that's going to look like, but yeah, hopefully, and then in the remaining episodes, we'll see him explore those feelings, because he really doesn't. He surprised me this year, I'll say, and based on the conversation last episode, like, I think he was scared to acknowledge everything happening, because he didn't want it to be real, I think. But that's, again, human nature, which we've all kind of experienced in different ways.
I want to talk about your business. How's the business going? Because I mean, I
Can
think
I preface this real quick?
what?
Because I just need to say, because it drove me fucking crazy. I didn't watch like the earlier seasons. I just watched the clip of you sewing and Naomi saying like, oh, like making fun of you for sewing. I mention it almost every season that it premieres. It makes me so mad. And it kind of ties into what we do here, just because if you're a man and you like to sew, who gives a shit? Like that bugged
Right.
me so much. Like if you're passionate about sewing, sew to your heart's content. Look what you did with it. Look what you built. It's fucking incredible. And like we make that joke all the time to people that talk to us, and they're like, when we started out, especially like our friends who are, tough guys are like,
Right.
oh, really, bro? Like a Bravo podcast? Like I was like, really, dude? You're too tough for fucking TV? Like, what are you talking about? You sound like such an idiot. Like you're that insecure. So to see you get like berated for doing something that you enjoyed, then taking that and turning it into what you've turned it into has been so cool to watch, especially from the standpoint. Every time I see that scene, I'm like, oh, that sucks. I hate that for you. So back to Shooter. Sorry, I just need to
No,
I need to get that off my chest.
Me personally, I think it's great because what we usually see on Bravo is, people trying to start a music career because they're famous on Bravo, or they want to, obviously everybody's going to do a podcast. That's fine. But they want to be models. They want to do all this like outlandish shit that you would never see them be able to do. And they're using Bravo as the platform. And we can see it right away. Like, all right, you're not going to be a music star. You're just a housewife. You're just this or that or whatever. You took a completely different route and went to something, one, that you enjoy doing, and it's practical. It's a practical business that's going to do well. You used your platform for good, I would say. So like, how cool is that to be able to get obviously to the point that you're at right now? And you've got stores opening and there's people clamoring outside just to get into your store. Obviously, one, the product's great. Two, it's Craig from Southern Charm. I want to see if I can get a glimpse of him in there. Maybe Paige is going to be there. That's cool. Like, but it's got to be really cool to be able to turn what you're doing on reality TV into a practical business like that will last you, for the rest of your life, even when you're done with TV.
Yeah, I mean, I appreciate all the kind words because I mean that was the goal. And so there's a couple different things. One, I never understood the strife against it. Like I actually, it's funny because when I got the sewing machine, I actually thought it would be received by the people closest to me as like a very attractive thing because it is like in real life being secure
I think
enough to
so.
do something like you guys are doing. And so like being secure enough to do something that other people are too shy to fuck with is actually very attractive. And so I was blindsided.
We're
Um,
attracted to you too, Craig.
no, thanks guys. In my relationship, I was just like, wait, what? Like this is cool. Doing things that not everyone else does is cool. And then I've been played some clips from that were during some of those seasons, which I didn't watch a lot of, and I'm pretty taken back by how against me a lot of the friends were, and how, like they said some mean shit, and I just never understood why they were so obsessed with what I was doing. Maybe it was to keep maybe it was keep the telescope off them or their own personal not telescope, microscope. But like maybe it was like for like, I think some of them like holding a mirror, up to them being like, well, what are you doing? But man, I I've had so much fun just persevering and pushing through. And the store on King Street is so fun to share with everyone else that supported me that wasn't on the show. And it serves as like, it is a giant middle finger to everyone that hated against it. So like I don't have to say anything, which is great. And like that was the whole thing. Like you just have to push through those early years. And that's why I'm glad that they were recorded so people can see that like sometimes like I was the only one that thought it was a good idea. The only one. I mean, my parents have always been supportive of me, but like, so they don't know where I came from anyway. They're a law student or lawyer, like reality TV sewing kid. Um, but like at the end of the day, I was the only one that thought it was a good idea. And so that's what I like to tell people is like, look, even if you have no support in your life, which hopefully you do, like doesn't mean it's a bad idea. Just because no one else has done it doesn't mean it's a bad idea. Don't feel bad spending time on your side hustle. And man, my I used to like I would cripple myself because I had done like 5 seasons of a show that's on in front of millions of people and I didn't have anything like tangible to show for it, I guess. Like I didn't have a product. I didn't feel accomplished on that side of things. And I finally saw a meme or a graphic online where it was like, Vera Wang made her first dress at like 45. Like the creator of Red Bull was like 52. The guy that started Uber was like in his 60s. Like this chart where it was like, you are younger than you think.
Right.
And you have plenty of time. And tomorrow is the next day of the rest of your life. And so it's kind of neat. Like I remember Paige had a hard time turning 30, and I was like, well, I didn't start sewing down south till I was 31. And they kind of like, lit up her face a little bit. So it's been a fun journey. I mean, things are really, really taking off. And it's like to be able to share that with everyone through, TV and um, traveling the country has been great.
Yeah, it's been really fun to watch. And like from somebody, I played professional baseball for a long time and I actually left the game due to alcohol pretty much. Like I've been sober for 5 years now and had to start
Oh,
my life over.
congrats.
Thank you, appreciate it. But I had to start my life over from 28 years old. And at that point, all I'd done my entire life was play ball.
Right.
And I had to start literally from scratch. I was like, what the fuck am I supposed to do now? And I started pursuing, as a personal trainer just to make the ends meet. But I've always liked cooking. So I started cooking a lot. I fell backwards into a private chef job. And now that's what I do for a living. I'm a private chef, personal trainer. Then same thing with the podcast. And it's like, I think it's a great message and it resonated with me watching you pursue this thing that is a passion. It's a dream that you want to, come to fruition. But I think it's always nice on these shows to have these moments to make, you guys seem more personable, if you will, where you can watch a guy take a passion.
Relatable.
Relatable.
Yeah.
Thank you. I
Yeah.
forget words a
Yeah.
lot.
There you go. Words.
Yeah, words suck. But to see that and like watch you grow, watch you look at everybody and pretty much, silently give the middle finger. Like, I know you guys are making fun of me, but fuck you, watch this. Like that mindset, watching it has been one of my favorite things about watching this growth that you've made over the past 4 or 5 years or whatever. So I just want to let you know, like, from somebody that's done something similar, not to that degree by any means, but just pursuing something that we care about instead of just being like, oh, I guess I'll get a 9 to 5. I guess I'll just do
Right.
whatever just to make the ends meet. So it's been really fun to watch, and actually watching you take it and turn it into this borderline juggernaut where it's kind of, you guys are continually just getting bigger and bigger. Where are you in now? Your
The
distribution?
the Kroger deal is
That's it.
so, next year you'll see me with like pots and pans and
That's awesome.
sheets
I
of
can't
Eddie.
We're
wait for
gonna
that.
find one. Yeah, we're gonna take a
Yeah,
selfie
well,
with one of those.
it's like they've got 20 different grocery stores. So Kroger's the parent company, and then they have a whole bunch. But dude, it's funny. Steel and shooter. I guess lacrosse players at first because I knew a Steel that played lacrosse, and then shooter. I
There's
was like,
not a
that's
lot
got
of
to be
us.
it.
Yeah,
Lax guy.
mine was more basketball.
Yeah.
Okay, gotcha. Yeah, I I it's cool. Well, the one thing anyone listening, I was really open. Well, when I started to open up about Adderall was a great day because I was sitting at the reunion and every question that was asked about me, like, why'd you do this? Why'd you do this? Why'd you do this? Like the answer was Adderall. Like
Right.
and so I finally just said it. Um, and it was received very well, but no one knew what to do with it because, Adderall was this like thing that we were all prescribed and like, I don't know, people just didn't talk about it. And so when I talked about it in my book, athletes came up to me and like some famous people and stuff, and they're like, dude, it affects my relationship with my kids and my parents and my like irritable. And they're like, are you as productive as you were before? And I was like, no. I
Yeah.
was
No.
like,
It's
I'm not
physically
fully
impossible.
like,
Yeah.
but I was like, but I'm more efficient. I was like, I'm happier. I get more done with my time now.
Right.
And then the next beast to tackle, which was when I started to date Paige, I just thought you went from like the fun boyfriend to the husband to the dad. Like I really like it's funny because I think it's a guy way of thinking, but I just thought it progressed like that. I didn't think there had to be any personal growth.
Yeah.
So I didn't realize that the fun boyfriend doesn't automatically become, the husband material or good dad. The potential was there. And so I started to work on my drinking, and there's a program called Refrain, which I haven't talked about yet, or like the program, but it's for people that don't want to, like, you could use it to get sober, but it's for people that want to cut their drinking.
Right.
And so I've been using this program Refrain, and then, everything changed, because as soon as you start to cut, then it really, I mean, I'm a guy of extremes, I guess. That's my personality. I'm sure we are all kind of similar on that. But I started to work out in the morning, and then, like, that really changed my life. Working out in the morning, understanding food, eating for a purpose, and not because I was bored. And then um, it put me in the position to embrace opportunities. So instead of, people say you got lucky. It's not that you're lucky; it's that you're in the right place and time for an opportunity. And
Yeah.
God, I have so much, like, energy now. But the thing is, it's, constant battle. Um, but it's been fun, and I'm thankful that I can share it with people, because, it's I'm new to all of this too. And then you realize that everyone's new to it. Everyone's just
Yeah.
like living their first life. Like, no one's done this um before. But it gives me the sewing thing brings me to the table. Like, there's not a lot of straight males, like, in, I mean, there's more than you think, but, like, publicly out there talking about, like, sewing and gardening and cooking, and, like, the stuff, like, kind of being like a homemaker. And, I was very fortunate growing up in the most basic of ways. Like, I didn't know people didn't have dinner with their parents every night until I, like, got to college. And that's, like, a big one. I'm very appreciative for that. But I didn't really have a seat at the table for, this inclusion talk, because, like, I had the fundamental, I guess, necessities. And
Right.
so it's been fun, because doing this, like, not stereotypical straight male thing, it's given me a doorway to, like, speak on inclusivity and stuff like that at schools, and, like, bullying and shit. And, like, I don't know, it just opened a lot of doors that have been really fun. And I think, having a clear state of mind and being able to say yes when things come has been great.
Yeah,
And I
that's
think
I
a
mean,
big part is like just for dudes in general, we talk about it here a lot, but that old school mentality of like what a man is, you know what I mean? Where it's like you gotta be
Yeah.
tough, like rub dirt on it, don't talk about your feelings, all that shit. Like that's how I was for 28 years of my life. And then I went to rehab and they broke all that shit down. They're like, yeah, this is why you have a problem. I was like, oh, that makes a lot of sense.
You
So
mean the
like
dirt's not working?
yeah, no, come on. My dad told me rub dirt on it, I'll be fine and to not be a pussy. That's all I need. But like learning how to finally talk about shit and open up about shit and be open to hearing criticisms and changing and allowing yourself to feel honestly, like feeling sad, talking about being sad, all that kind of stuff. And so to see somebody on TV in your position, like somebody that's successful, somebody that's not afraid to talk about sewing, somebody that's not afraid to talk about your feelings, somebody that's not afraid in your relationship to be the person that's like, hey, I want to talk about the future. I want to talk about moving forward, which all of those things can sometimes be looked at as like a woman's role, quote unquote, in
Right.
traditional terms, which I think is bullshit. So to see somebody take that upon themselves to not only live it but to preach about it and not in like a soapbox kind of way, I think it's important for guys, especially guys our age that are kind of teetering back and forth on what it means to be masculine. So I really appreciate it.
yeah, it's band-aids for outside wounds, alcohol for inside wounds, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
right, that's how I learned.
That's how it works. That's how it works. But how are because obviously a big part of your role, at least on this season, and it kind of spills over onto Summer House and Winter House and all over the place. Give us a breakdown of kind of where you and Paige are right now, because that's such a point of emphasis.
And everybody wants to know, Craig.
And look, dude, we fucking get it. We understand it's baby steps. So we watch this and we're like,
Right.
all right, Paige is a little more receptive to this time. She answered the question this way, and Craig seems to have changed this and that and whatever. We understand that it's going to be a long process. You guys live far away from each other, but where are you guys at currently? And also, what's it like to, obviously have idiots like us analyze your fucking relationship? That's what we have. That's what we have to do. We have to watch TV and be like, all right, Craig and Paige, are they in it for the long haul? What's going on here? Like, can you guys turn that outside noise off and just focus on yourselves?
As much as you can, because, like, if you say, like, there's never a mute button, and so you try to keep it at a low volume. That's just human nature. It's not like we live in the woods off the grid. Um, which I fantasize about. I don't know if I'd be good at it, but I like to watch
Yeah.
those like Alaskan shows or like, go
You
live
watch
on a
Alone?
ranch somewhere. No, that's a little too intense for me,
Oh, okay.
Yeah, that is pretty fucking
That's fun.
intense.
which is
I wanna
probably why I couldn't do it
I wanna
on
do
my
Naked and
own.
Afraid. I wanna try that one.
Dude, the bugs would get me. The bugs,
Oh yeah.
the bugs
If I
are
could
tough,
get
but
yeah.
I'm good friends. Dustin Johnson's one of my close friends, and we watch a lot of Naked and Afraid. It seems to stay on the TV when we're having
Dustin
like a
Johnson,
lazy
the
day.
golfer Dustin Johnson?
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
My
Him and I watch
stepdad's
a lot of
golfed with
Naked and
him
Afraid.
a few
Really?
times because yeah, my stepdad works for RBC and
Yeah,
Dustin Johnson's sponsored by them, so he golfs
yeah,
with them everyone like not a lot. I think he's gone like 2 or 3 times with him. That's
yeah.
funny.
They're
He
great,
just
great
casually like,
people.
yeah, my buddy Dustin, Johnson.
Well,
No
it's
big deal.
because if you follow me on Instagram, then I never know if you just say Dustin. Yeah, whatever. So Dustin. But they're on that TV show's on all the time. We're in a great place, and I think sustainable, excuse me, sustainable growth is what became important because I don't know, I didn't understand like timing, I guess. And, I really only base stuff off like rom-coms. Like you date for a little while, you get engaged, and then you get married. Like I wasn't able to see it in other than like a very linear thing. And so when Paige told me last year, um, that there was like that she wanted to get married to me one day, but that we had stuff to figure out. And then I realized that like in my head, you got engaged and then you figured that stuff out.
Right.
Then I saw the importance of being like, that's not how it works. And we'll get to see like I love Lindsay and Carl, but I asked them this summer and there's a lot of TV to watch, but I was like, did you kind of think, well, I shouldn't go into that, but because then, but I just was under the impression that like you got engaged and then you figured your shit out. And like I kind of just got perspective. Well, I also didn't want to like lose Paige. I was like, well, aren't you supposed to like propose after a while so they think you're serious? And I just had a lot of ideas of what I was supposed to do because again, I didn't know any better. And so fortunately, we're very good at talking and like we're different, but like we communicate really well. And people forget we've only been dating a little over 2 years.
Yeah.
When you watch something on TV, it seems a lot longer. And I think we got in this habit of seeing people date and seeing people get engaged on TV and then seeing what would happen. But we were
I think
both
it's
so
because
scared.
you're on like 17 fucking shows at this
Yeah,
point, bro.
that's
Yeah,
probably,
We see
honestly.
you
yeah,
all year round. And we're like, this has been a 7-year relationship.
that's probably very true. And like the timing gets all out of it. And so we have had some pretty good steps. And the most recent one is just like being okay with our setup. Regardless if it makes sense to anyone else, like our long distance thing, we love and we're really starting to embrace and being like, look, it works for us. Like, instead of trying to fit ourselves into this box, which, was, I guess I'm a traditionalist in a lot of senses when it comes to like romantic stuff. Instead, I'm just like, but I'm happy, and I'm like, I tried the other ways before. And, if me and her are both happy with our setup, then let's just see what happens. But also, she's a girl. So, and no offense to girls, but like, tomorrow, we're in Vegas and she's like, let's just get married. Our parents are here, Then the next day she's like, I don't know if I want to get engaged yet. Like, I never know where she's going to be, but fortunately, the end goal is the same. We want to have a family one day together. We really don't know what that's going to look like or what the next few years are.
We saw, years ago on Summer House, you guys started dating. We're like, all
Right.
right, we'll see what happens. And now you're one of, if not the best couple on Bravo that we actually just genuinely enjoy watching together because you guys have so much fun and actually like each other. Like
What's
watching
even
you call her.
genuine?
Yeah, like watching you call her in bed after the shit show that was Shep's Mountain House was hilarious because Paige is like, I wish I was there to witness all of this. And when she is there, you can see it on her face, like, oh yeah, I'm so happy I'm here. I get to watch this just blow up and I get to be involved, but it's not part of me.
Right. Oh, she loves that role. She loves just getting to be like, arm's length of everything.
Yeah,
Yeah.
But
like a fly on
just,
the wall during
You
this.
can tell when you have that dinner at Shep's, the pheasant dinner, and she's like the third party, and she just gets to like
yeah,
see. It's almost like she's a producer on the show, where she's in the background, like, "Ooh, what's gonna happen?" And like the smile
Yeah.
on her face when shit starts to go south, I was like, "She's really enjoying this."
she's got a bird's eye, like a front row seat to it all. She had a great conversation with Olivia that we didn't get to see on the phone at the Mountain House too. But to their credit, which is funny because I I butt heads with like producers a lot, but they're our buddies. But everyone has a job to do. But
Yeah.
sometimes when they're like, some of those conversations that me and Paige had, like we really so the conversations that you guys see, we would not have had on our own, like, but we should have. So what I mean is like
Oh,
it's not
okay.
like it's real, but like we were actually at least kind of pressured into finally having these conversations by our like, our friends on the show because like a lot of times they're like, "Have you talked about this?" And I'm like, "No, you're right. Like we haven't." I was like, "I don't want to talk about this,
Maybe
but
we
we
Don't even
should.
probably
make me.
should." Um,
Therapy
yeah,
via producers.
so sometimes it is like nothing's changed, but I think it's funny that you said you see a little bit of movement, and I think that's what was important to me. I'm like, I don't care what the timing on this is, as long as there's, potential to move forward. But that's like in anything in life. You don't want to be spinning in circles. So it's it's you just kind of have to embrace it and really find the positivity in it because we do have so many long distance couples that message us or regular couples or whoever would. I mean, I think a lot of people have fun with it, but the problem is there's a lot of anger out there in the world too, and that's the you try to turn up the positivity and turn down the negativity. And I think the more in person interactions we have with people, that's the goal. Like, I love going to the store, I love traveling around. um, you got to stay off the internet. Reading like comments on the internet is like cutting. They were
Oh,
like,
wow.
yeah, they were like, because you skim right by all the positive stuff. So you could read, 20 nice comments or threads, but you're going to stop on the one that like hurts you and that's mean, and you're going to read it knowing that it's going to hurt your feelings.
Yeah.
And they compared it to cutting. I remember that. So I tell a lot of the girls that story sometimes to try to help them because I don't know. It's
That's interesting. I'm
Yeah,
always the one that gets stuck on those bad boys. Shooter doesn't care, and
I
I'll
don't give a
like
shit. Now
someone will say
we actually
something, I'll be
turned
like,
it. We turned it
"What's
into a
up?"
skit
Oh
on
yeah,
our show. Like part of a segment for our show is here's the meanest comment of the week, and then
that's good.
we'll go back at them and make fun of them. So I mean,
we do rose and
that's
thorn. We call it. What's your
yeah.
rose
I
and
was
thorn of the
scared to
week?
do that because I didn't want to encourage mean comments,
Oh,
but
It
dude,
does.
I think
It
people
it's
does
started
funny
giving
encourage
us
mean
too.
like
comments.
1-star reviews so that we would read their comment on it, and we're like, all right, not at the not at the
Just settle down,
sustainability of
guys.
the show. Yeah, but we're not
The
going to read your
podcast
comment.
reviews are so frustrating because people get confused and they'll like leave 1 star and be like, "This is my favorite podcast," and be like,
Oh
"Yeah,
yeah,
but,"
we've got that.
We've
or
gotten
like,
that.
"I really hated, that you had Whitney on because he sucks." 1 star, and you're like,
I
"But you're
know.
hurting us. Go
Yeah, we
yell at
get that shit all
Whitney."
the time. They're like, I love the podcast, but disagreed with your assessment of Beverly Hills. 1 star. I'm like, dude,
Yeah,
that's
please,
mean.
please
Give
go
us at least
rate and
3.
subscribe to our podcast. Well, it's never anything other than like 1 or 5. You're
Yeah,
like, there's other
always.
stuff in there.
But
Um,
moving on from that, we got 2 more things I want to do if you got time, and then we can
yeah, of
wrap this
course.
up. But up first, I want to do some questions. We asked our listeners if they had questions for Craig, and we got a lot of them. So let me jump into this. Let's see. From Max June, who would settle down first, Austen, Shep, or Whitney?
Austen wants to. I think Shep and Taylor was the closest that, the closest that I can see Shep getting to settling down. Like, I think he had come around to it and wanted to, and I think we have a lot to explore with that. But Austin truly wants to, like, and I say this in a nice way. I've said it before, but like, he wants like what me and Paige have. Like, he would love to be able to have, like, he wants to be in a couple. He just hasn't figured it out yet. And then Whitney's our James Bond friend. I think he'll just be the international man of mystery. We never know where he is. We never know who he's with. To his mother's chagrin, but yeah, I think Austin, then Whitney, and then probably Shep in our current state.
I like that
of
ranking.
things.
I got one from Vinny Sori, and it says, if you could cast Paige on any Real Housewives franchise, which one would it be?
I think she would love to do New York.
I think she fits in New York.
Yeah, we've said
Yeah.
that before. We want her on
Yeah.
New York.
I think that would be a good transition for her. And yeah, she does. I mean, she's a fashionista that lives in New York City.
Yeah, it makes sense. You got one, Shoots?
Yeah, I mean, a lot of people think that you're the number one guy on the show now, which is such a funny like Bravo trend. I guess we're talking
Yeah,
about number
thanks,
one guys on
Jax.
the show. So shout out to everybody that thinks that Craig's the number one guy on the show. That's great. Love that.
Oh, the great competition between me and Austin and Shep. We
Let's
all have
see.
our quirks.
I'll get to that one later.
Yeah, no, did you saw the same one that I did?
Yeah.
Gets us right into the tinfoil hat moment.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, Steele, if you have one, just go with it.
All right. What plans do you have to expand sewing down south? That's from Christy Jedlicki.
So it's been really fun, and it's my partner Amanda, Jerry, and I, and it's pretty great that it's just us. But now we're hitting these like growing pains. We've got about 20 employees, and we need about 2 more positions filled. And I used to think, I went from seeing my products sold in everyone's stores across the country or people's stores. Then I went to having our own stores because we want to open. Our next store will be in 12 South in Nashville. We don't have a date on that because now our growth plan has changed a little bit into this collaboration we have with Kroger. And I think there's a lot to be excited about with that. We haven't done like official leases, but like right now you can find our holiday pillows in Kroger owned stores across the country,
Nice.
like thousands of stores. And then we're just going to, hopefully become like a household name through their stores. And so you can always, go to our website. Like we just, sewingdownsouth.com. Paige and I's, second collection was awesome. Our holiday collection's out right now. I really am working on our nonprofit sector. That's always been my goal to make money my whole life, is for the philanthropic side. And so I do a lot with like Hope for the Warriors and stuff like that, for post 9/11 veterans. But the thing is like there's a lot of different directions, and keeping us honed in and tight is like is the challenge, but we're doing well with it. But I was like, we started to have like HR issues, and I was like, oh my God, our company's so big that we need HR now. And they're like, Craig, you can't, don't say that. And I was like, but it's a huge step. I was like, we've gotten to that size now.
Yeah, you
It's a
got to
good
appreciate the
drawback.
little things there.
Yeah. But yeah, so that's the answer to that.
Well, the next question leads us into our next segment here. And I brought tinfoil. I'm going to put it on. If you didn't, don't worry about it. But
I love that.
from
I'm gonna
Rachel,
put it on my hat.
You're going to put it on your hat? I'll put mine on in a sec. From Rachel Ray, what's your strangest conspiracy theory? And then we're going to do a tinfoil hat with the boys, because I love conspiracy theories. I don't believe a lot of them, but I love diving into them because they're so intriguing to me. And like, I'll end up on like a Reddit rabbit hole where it's like there's videos and shit. So
Yeah,
what's your
TikTok.
strangest?
TikTok and Mr. Sorbo, could I have some aluminum foil? I need to start writing them down. There's two things that I want to do. I need to come up with a Bravo conspiracy.
Oh
You know, I
yeah, we
really
do
need to
that.
come up. Okay, I need to come up with a Bravo conspiracy. Uh, you know, I think it's, you know, I'm on the TikTok one, and then I'll see them and I'll say, like, TikTok really is a death trap for your mind because you're convinced in the moment that, and Paige got me on it. Like, I was never on it before, and you're
Right.
convinced that you're learning stuff and that you're doing brain exercises, but you're not because you don't retain any of the information.
Nope.
Zero.
So the strangest one recently is I can't figure out why everyone that talks about giants dies. Like everyone that talks about giants in, like, I think it's the Appalachian Mountains, and there's these videos of these big like mountain doors like closing, and like I don't, have you guys seen this one where like
Yeah.
they keep
So
killing themselves?
Appalachia like lore is one of my
Oh,
favorite
dude,
topics.
like how
It's
like
so
missing
interesting.
all the missing people in the United States, and then all the cave entrances
Yeah,
throughout,
dude.
and like the
Crazy.
Appalachian Mountains are so big on that. That's one of my favorite ones.
But there's this one where I forget his name, but people, I mean, it's very easy to find, but he basically pulled over on the side of the road and he saw this like thing walking up the mountain, but it was like he was very far away. So it had to be the size of like a telephone pole. And he started to post about it. And it became this like, you know, that he saw a giant. And then the next time he tried to go like up there, like a government car stopped him, and then there was a facility like appeared up there, but his TikToks kept getting stranger and stranger, like he was being controlled by someone, and then he like killed himself. And it's like a very dark thing, but I've always like when people ask me this question, I do want to say like sometimes like, well, can someone explain to me like what is going on with this side of things? So now they have all these people running out into the woods trying to find giants and they like keep disappearing. I don't know, it's really weird. It's not a great answer. I obviously would
I
get
think it's a good one.
canceled. I would get canceled if I told you my real ones. But it's crazy because I think mine 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 do teeter into the ones that end up being true about the government, which most of them like are.
Yeah, for sure.
Like when you see stuff happening, you're like, come on, guys. Like you can't be that oblivious to everyone's just being, you know. So a lot of them lead that way, but the funny ones are like, you know, that birds aren't real. No one's ever seen a baby pigeon. I read one this morning. Like tornadoes only happen in America. Like, why do tornadoes?
Oh, the
only
government is
happen in
controlling
America?
weather. I love that one. That
That's
the
a good
government.
one.
That's
I
what's
don't
really
think
in
that's
Area
true, though.
51.
I'm
I
pretty
think it
sure
is.
that
I think it
tornadoes
is.
happen in other countries.
No, I
Well,
don't think so.
I like have been looking at it today, being like, do tornadoes exist in other countries?
Googling.
You would think like Australia, maybe, or somewhere in the Middle East, but no, they don't really. It's pretty much just America.
Right.
Based on what?
Based
We
on
don't know.
weather
Like,
research. What do you mean?
yeah.
I'm glad I
Look
got
it
my
up.
tinfoil hat on. Look it up.
Read a book.
My favorite one always has to do with aliens, and especially now that they're pushing all these. I guess that's my question. With all of the whistleblowers at Congress talking about aliens now, do you think that they're using that to distract from something else, or do you think that aliens are real? And then did you
Well,
see
then
the
you're
paper
like,
mache Mexican aliens that they showed?
Oh,
yeah, that was amazing. I got pretty excited about that. I
Yeah.
don't let myself usually get excited, but I was like, I I was like, how did it make its way to this level of
I
government though,
know.
that it's being presented? Like maybe there's something here. Um, you know, the scary thing is what the fuck are they covering up? But if now they're like, you know what, guys, you're right, we have aliens. They're like, we
I
have
don't
Nobody
know.
cares.
aliens. Yeah, no, they don't. No one cares.
I heard that because I read it. Those are the ones that I'll dive into is the alien ones, and I read one that there was a crash in Italy, a UFO crash in like the early 1900s, and the Vatican actually scooped up the wreckage and kept it in like the catacombs of Vatican City, and the
Right.
United States in the 40s paid for the remains of that, and that's why our jet propulsion systems and our military planes are better than everyone else in the world because we're reverse engineering alien technology that we purchased from the Vatican. That's one of my favorites.
I
I
think
mean,
that's
look,
true.
yeah, if you look at the advances in technology over the years, we went from like basic like tools of physics, like the ramp and the wheel and the like and a pivot like seesaw over thousands of years. That's all we had. And then in the realm of like 100 years or 150 years, we went from like, automobile engines to like cell phones. Like, how the fuck do cell phones actually work? To like going to space. And and like, so I think one that could be worth looking into is like someone came down, like the advances in technology in the last 100 years are like, there's no way to compare them to any other time in history.
The last 20 years, the technological advancements surpassed the technological advancements of our entire human history up to that
Right.
point.
And
Yeah.
like the pyramids, like we couldn't build the pyramids today. That's what people don't realize. Like we actually could not build them. Like we don't have the tools to do it. And like how the fuck did they do? Like, I mean, I don't know about aliens now, but like I almost think it's easier to believe that they came down and there was way more advanced technology back then than we have discovered, because like some of the hieroglyphics have like breathing apparatuses in the pictures and like flying vessels, and
I think one of the
like
pyramids had electricity going from the river that ran next to it into the king's chamber. And
really,
that's what they were using to power everything that they were doing. Yeah.
and like
It's
it's like
so fucking
laser
wild.
cut, like the stone is so. Yeah, I really should do like a conspiracies with Craig. Maybe you guys can like start it. Craig Steal and Shoot or conspiracies with us.
Oh yeah,
But people get
we'll
so
do that like once
fired
a
up
month.
about them
It's
because
great.
like
Do
it's
that.
as soon
Let's
as
do
you like,
once a month. We'll do conspiracies
that
with
would be
Craig.
fun.
We'll up. All right, you're on.
You got to come on our podcast too, but then you like will put like I'm very amazed at how scared people are of information now. Like I've got like a couple like groomsmen level friends that like if you say something that provokes like some sort of thought beyond like
the
being
norm.
pet, yeah, by being pet by everyone, like it makes them really uncomfortable. And I'm
It
like, dude,
does.
I'm just saying, can you answer this one cause and
Right.
effect question? And they're like, okay, cool, like go have fun with Russia, Craig. And I'm like, I'm just asking like a simple, like a simple question.
I love that you're so close to marriage that you're thinking of your friends as
Yeah, like
groomsmen level
groomsman level.
friends.
That's a
Well,
great like
because
barometer.
because I call everyone like my best friend, and like I didn't realize it, and so it started to get picked up on, and they're like, and Austin's like, oh yeah, Craig and his like 100 best friends, like, and like because I'm like, oh, like my best friend, this guy, so I had to start being like, all right, groomsman level
Yeah, you've got
is
different
an
tiers that you
actual
have to go
best
down.
friend.
Who's
That's
Yeah.
good.
best man is reserved for one. That's your best friend.
That's the one that has the problem with my thought process. No, I mean my brother will be the best friend,
That's a
but
good
that's
cop out.
why
We love that.
that's yeah. Well, I'm my brother's best man in his wedding next year, and it's kind of like a Southern thing too, which I didn't realize. I have Yeah, like it's gonna be tough. But then Paige is like, you're not gonna have groomsmen. And I was like, yes, I am. I was like, I have like 12 groomsmen. And she's like, they're not stand. I was like, they don't need to stand up there with us, but they're going to be like, they're hanging out with me during all of this stuff as my groomsmen. Then you can sit them wherever you want. But I
Yeah.
guess it's like like it's not like it's trending towards not having big wedding parties. But I was like, well, I do. Like
I
that's
had
not
my buddies hang out with me beforehand and like told them that yeah, you would be, but I only had
right.
two stand up with me, and then like my brothers
Okay.
got involved a little bit.
Right.
But I think that like my wife didn't really want to do wedding parties either. She's like, it's not the thing anymore. Granted, my wife is so shy that there's like a back staircase to the altar. She's like, can I just take that one? And the
That's
guy
funny.
running the wedding was like, I've been doing this for 20 years and no one has ever asked that. Like, this is about you. It's the big entrance. She's like, yeah, nah. Like, I just want to like slide in right there.
I do appreciate the tinfoil. Like it makes me feel at home. I am
Yeah.
just a little some people started to show up at our shows with it, and then someone came, like a whole group of people came to my store with like tinfoil hats, and I was like, I don't know if I want to go down this
Yeah, you
path.
don't want to
Yeah,
be
I was like,
associated with
hey,
that. Not
I
even
was
just
like,
as
it was
dangerous road.
yes. I was like, so we have like I posted it, or I think Rod did, from our show because he It's funny because some shows have like group chats. Ours has never worked. Like we have I'm in 3 different Southern Charm cast group chats because I
Mhm.
get along with a lot of people, but
Oh yeah.
not
They're all your
everyone
best
does.
friends.
Yes, exactly. But like Shep made a new group chat the other day, and I was just laughing to see like who was in it. But Rod was like, "There's a group of women, like 8 of them, walking down King Street with tinfoil hats on right now, and I have a feeling they're going to your store." And I was like, "Oh no,
That's incredible. You're gonna, yeah, you started something you didn't mean to start. You're trying to be funny
yeah."
on TV, and now you're gonna have a whole cult following in tinfoil hats
But
that
like
think you.
that's what gets Shep. He's like, everyone thinks Craig's joking, but he's not. And I was like, but no one knows, and I'm
But
not.
no,
Is
yeah,
he
but I
joking? We don't
could
know.
be.
Well, look,
I
we
could
we'd
be.
be remiss if we didn't ask you about the biggest one. Do you think pandas are actually real? Because I know what you're talking about. You're talking about that Chinese zoo panda that definitely looked like a guy in a suit.
Like the sun panda.
Yeah,
Yeah, that was like, I mean,
that was a dude.
what that was a
There was a
guy.
guy in that one, but they're not all
Yes,
guys.
but now, so now, like, so a lot of people don't realize the diplomatic like ramifications that the pandas do have. Like when China recalled all
Oh
the
yeah,
pandas, it was kind of a big deal. Um, we've worked something out now that they're going to be leasing because China owns all the pandas in the world, and there's like pandas don't really show up in history till like 300 years ago, but now that they're sending them back to like the US, um I was like, oh, they replaced the men that are inside and they're coming back to spy on us. um Dude, the one that I just got my dad with on Thanksgiving though is, and a lot, like I like historical contradictions. And the one, because I took geology in college, like that was my science, and they're like, "This rock's 1,000,000 years old, and this one's 50,000 years old." And I was like, "You're full of shit. No one knows what they're doing." I was like, she's like, "And this one's 50 million years old." And I was like, "This is so stupid." But I'm not. I love science. Like
yeah.
I was a nerd. Like I love school and stuff. But the one crazy contradiction, because we were just in Cincinnati for a meeting with Kroger and the Kentucky airport, which my dad was like, "Did you land in Kentucky and drive to Cincinnati?" I was like, "No, we flew to Cincinnati. You're stupid." And we definitely landed in Kentucky. Like that's,
Oh, you,
they share the airport. Like you fly to Kentucky to go to, it's just like the Cincinnati airport's in Kentucky.
Yeah,
oh,
yeah. It's like right.
that's
We
Yeah, I didn't
actually
know that either.
we talked about this on Monday because we were watching the Chiefs Eagles game Monday night, and we were discussing with Steele's wife about where Kansas City actually is.
yeah. It's
Why
in
is
fucking
Kansas City in
Missouri.
Missouri and not in
Yeah,
Kansas? It's stupid, but
yeah.
it's right on the border. It's the same thing.
So they have dinosaurs in the airport, which is sick. Like I loved it. They had like smaller ones, but like saber-tooth tigers and like woolly mammoths and like
Nice.
I guess prehistoric animals. And like my parents and I just did the Natural Museum of History in New York, which was sick. And like they just found a new dinosaur and all this stuff. And so I told my dad, because like we're medium, like I wouldn't say we're like I grew up Catholic, but like I went to Sunday school and like my parents will go through phases where they go to church on Sundays and now they found like a non-denominational place where it feels good to like we're more like personal relationships. Like I'm saying, like we're not overly religious, but we also have like religion in our foundation,
Yeah.
to an extent. But I was like, Dad, like I was like, well, how do you explain that the Bible says that the world's only like 7,000 years old? And he's like, it doesn't say that. I was like, but it does. So like, how do you explain dinosaurs if the Bible says? And he's like, that just doesn't make sense, Craig. And I was like, that's what I'm asking you. Like, where did the
Exactly.
dinosaurs come
Didn't we
from?
not find dinosaurs until like 100 years ago or something?
Yeah, like George Washington didn't know they existed. So
Right.
I asked my Sunday school teacher this, and this is when I got to stop going to Sunday school. But my dad just didn't remember this. I mean, he's getting a little older. And I was like, Dad, like, I asked this guy, and he was like, dinosaur bones were placed on the earth by the devil to trick like non-believers or believers that, like, because I
I've
asked
heard
him the
this one
question.
too. Yeah.
And so now, because my dad was like, you have to find an answer for me online. So they say that the days in God's eyes are thousands of years in human years, like
That's
God
convenient.
years. Yeah, so like the 7 days of creation were actually over like tens of thousands of years, and I was like, well, there you go. That's what you can.
That's a good enough answer. Yeah,
Yeah,
it
sure.
does,
But,
it does the trick.
a lot of people don't know. Like, I don't bring that up as a religious thing. It's just a historical contradiction that a lot of people don't think about.
That's great.
Well, the
That's a good
last
one, Dad.
thing that we want to at some point, and if you guys would be up for it, if we could have a scramble between pillows and beer and the BravBros on the golf course in Charleston at some point, if you guys would
That
be
would be
down to do
great.
that, we would
Yeah,
love
we'd
that.
love to do that. I just played with Marty Mush from Barstool. It
Oh,
was
you did?
great. We had
Nice.
so much fun. But yeah, we'll do it. Where do you guys live?
We're in Philly.
But okay, I knew you were Philly fans, but I didn't know if you were still in Philly. Well, that's an easy trip. Paige and I flew to Philly, and she took the train to Philly, and we drove down to Delaware. But yeah, it's an easy trip to Charleston. There's an American flight that goes right there, and we would love that. I live on a golf course, so we'll just play
Perfect.
there. It'll be fun.
Get that set up. But other than that, man, we really appreciate you taking the time to chat with us. We've been fans of yours for a while, so this has been awesome.
Thanks. Yeah, it was fun, and that'll be cool. You guys come down, maybe come during a filming season or something, like in the spring.
That'd be sick.
Yeah, that'd be great.
I haven't done a podcast in a while, so it was fun. I mean, like this, it was good. Like someone else's. I did mine.
Yeah. No, it was a blast. But all right. Well, thank you again for coming out, and we'll be in touch about maybe a monthly segment, Conspiracies with Craig. And
well, you guys got to come on Pillows and Beer too, because we'd love to hear about how you guys started and more of your story.
Oh, yeah,
I think it's
for sure.
great.
I'll shoot you a text. We'll figure it out. But thanks again, and we will talk to you soon.